Leading up to the invasion in 1939, Nazi Germany had been putting out anti-Polish propaganda to its citizens. It was said that ethnic Germans in Poland were being mistreated and even killed by the Poles. Of course, these accusations turned out to be either exaggerations or false outright. Regardless of whether or not the propaganda was true, those on the Reich believed it, and it would add to an already growing anti-Polish sentiment in Germany and its people. When the invasion began on the 1st of September, Adolf Hitler made it clear that the war was partially a race war, and that ideally those in Poland would either be forcibly removed from their land or be exterminated. Jews were especially targeted. However, unlike regular Poles, the Jews were often not given the luxury of forcibly relocating. Instead, they were often murdered as soon as it was possible for the German invaders. All of this relocation and slaughter was part of a bigger operation known as Lebensraum, or living space, where those in Central and Eastern Europe would either be forcibly removed or exterminated to make room for the ethnic Germans coming in to settle there. Lebensraum would be one of the leading factors for the Nazi invasions in the first place. On the other hand, some Poles could stay in what was their former country as the Nazis deemed certain people eligible for, quote, Germanization, where they would be accepted into German society. Millions of children would be, quote, Germanized, and many of them would be taken from their parents. When the early 1940s came, Poles were often sent to concentration and extermination camps, where a vast majority would either be worked to death or killed in what would be known as the Holocaust. Even from the beginning of the invasion, the German invaders made no effort whatsoever to preserve Polish life. From the bombings of major cities like Warsaw to the random roundups and executions of civilians, many would die in the first weeks of the invasion alone, leading into the years of German occupation. Especially targeted were the Jews, who were sometimes picked off the streets and killed at random before official ghettos were established, where they would be kept in the masses and in terribly poor conditions. SS Einsatzgruppen death squads would also go around hunting for, quote, subhumans, whom they would often shoot on sight when located. It was a total effort, really, as all parts of the German war machine, including the SS, Wehrmacht, police forces, and more, all collaborated and tried to eliminate Poland, its people, its history, and its culture altogether. The Germans also made it a priority to rid Poland of its elite members like the highly educated, doctors, priests, other religious figures, teachers, journalists, government figures, the wealthy, and more. This, like the other killings, was in an effort to rid Poland of all its leadership and to reduce the risk of a complex resistance movement that could bother the Nazis in the future. All of those who were sent to death by the Nazis were often killed either on the spot, or they would be taken to a mass execution site, or they would be taken to a concentration camp, or worse, an extermination camp. In 1942, senior Nazi and SS officials met and implemented the final solution. This was the plan to exterminate the European Jewish population. By the end of that year, 6 extermination camps had been built and were now being used, and tragically, to great effect. They were Majdanek, Kelmo, Sobibor, Belzec, Treblinka, and Auschwitz-Birkenau. All were built and operated in Poland. This forced relocation, oppression, and genocide would continue until the final stages of the war, when the Germans were forced to retreat back to their homeland as the Soviets marched further and further west.